Yo, thank you for clicking on the video. I'm Who's Mans. I just like football. I'm here to teach you the X's and O's of the game. I'm not here to teach you the glitches and the exploits and things like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If you guys are new, go ahead, hit the subscribe button and bell so you never miss an upload, and let's get into it. As you know, we're using the Wyoming Cowboys, and I think this is going to be a really interesting dynasty. So let's talk about Wyoming. I've been doing some research. They're becoming one of my second favorite schools. I always have a soft spot right now for Eastern Carolina, but right now, man, Wyoming is moving up. Penn State obviously is my team. Jay Sawvell, he was the previous DC. He's taken over for head coach. Craig Bohl was their head coach from 2014 up until last year. Cool thing is, before he was at Wyoming, he was with North Dakota State, won them 3 consecutive FCS championships. 2014 moved up to Wyoming, ended up with a 61-60 record overall. You hear that number and I think it sounds worse than what it actually was. He started off pretty rough, had a 4-win season followed by a 2-win season, but after that, 6-6 season, a 8-4 season. 2020 had a down year, 2-4. That was also COVID, so I mean, I don't really blame him on that one. But several back-to-back 7-6 seasons, and then last season followed that up with a 9-4 season, winning the Arizona Bowl against Toledo. Listening to fans, everyone seemed to really love Craig Bohl. It seemed like he brought that juice back to Wyoming. We're going to talk about some offense and defense. Last year, they ranked 80th in points per game, 64th in rushing yards per game, and 118th in passing yards per game. You can already tell they were not a passing team. They came out in a lot of 12, 21, and 13 personnel, a lot of pistol, and they ran the ball a lot. Now, I understand why they ran the ball a lot. They had an amazing running back in Harrison Lee, and then they had Andrew Peasley, really athletic quarterback. He is not returning, so they're going to be relying on Evan Svoboda, and forgive me if I said his last name wrong. They definitely ran the ball more than they passed the ball. So they averaged 168.5 yards a game through the air, and then they averaged 158.5 yards on the ground. They averaged 23 attempts passing per game, while they averaged 36 attempts rushing per game. So you see that they favored heavily towards the run. I think how I'm going to try to run this is I would like to, again, rely on the run game. They're bringing back Harrison Lee and Evan Svoboda, and once again, forgive me for the pronunciation of that name, but he seems like an athletic specimen. He's coming in 6'5", 245, and he is athletic. He can run the ball. So you got a guy that big with a strong arm and can run, wearing number 17, reminds some people of a previous player, Josh Allen. We're not going to say he's Josh Allen, but just kind of reminds you of him. Similar build, big guy, can run, has a strong arm. And, he did a really good job actually filling in for Andrew Peasley against Texas. The game was close up until about end of the third, beginning of fourth quarter, when Texas finally pulled it away. He did throw an interception, but threw for about 200 yards, which, if you see what their averages, was above average for that offense. Ran the ball pretty well, and for the most part, he did a pretty good job in that game. He didn't let it get out of hand, and they ran the ball pretty well. Harrison Lee had 118 yards on the ground that game, I believe. So, yeah. Now let's talk about the defense. Defensively, they were pretty good. 37th in points per game, 51st in rushing yards per game, and then 47th in passing yards per game. So they did a pretty good job. They're returning some key pieces in the secondary, as well as their defensive line. I feel like there's a lot of hype, especially now that I'm kind of getting my feelers out, because I'm on the east side, the east, not coast, but the eastern part of the United States. So Wyoming football don't ever come up. The only stuff about West Coast football is Colorado, Oregon, USC, the normal big teams, right? So I don't hear much about Wyoming football. But looking into what's going on with Wyoming football, it seems like there's a lot of hype going into this season. I don't know too much about the roster. I've heard a few names here and there. I'm just going to point out the people that I've been hearing about. Can't wait. We got a couple more days to go for this game to come out. So first off, I want to talk about Wyatt Ekeler returning free safety. I think he did a pretty good job last year. I was listening to a lot of different people talking about the team last year and where their bright spots were, and it seemed like Wyatt Ekeler came up quite a bit. All right, coming in at linebacker, filling in for the new kind of head spot there is Shea Suianoa. Good size on him, very athletic, good head on his shoulders. Definitely will be looking for him to be making some big plays. All right, so next up we got Evans Svoboda. Dude is a absolute monster, 6'5", 245, really strong arm, really athletic. Shades of some Josh Allen. I'm not going to throw that title on him because that's a big shoe to fill there, but definitely want to see how he's going to do. He did a really good job against Texas. I watched some of the film against that. As a freshman, he did a really good job against Texas last year. Made a mistake, threw a pick six. The game seemed to already kind of be out of hand at that point. Wyoming did a really good job of keeping it close. It was 10-10 for most of the game. It really got out of hand really late third quarter, beginning of fourth, but for the most part he did a pretty good job. As I said before, they averaged 168 yards through the air and he got about 200 there. As a freshman, to go into Texas and keep it close for most of the game, pretty good. So I'm excited to see how he does this year. Harrison Way-Lee, another one coming back this year, vital part of the offense. Excited to see what he does. Hopefully we can get him up to 1,000 yards for the season. Just shy under it. I had a kind of off game against UNLV. He started the game a little late. Maybe he was a little bit injured. I know he had an injury during the middle of the season, but this year we're hoping to get him over 1,000 yards. John Gillenborg, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that last name. Junior coming back. I've been hearing a lot about him in the spring game and different things that I've been reading about. So I'm curious to see how well he does in this offense going forward. So I'm pretty excited to see that. I look at their wide receivers and they have quite a bit of size. A lot of guys that are about 6'2" and taller. See 6'2", 6'4", 6'4", 210, 200. They have a couple of the smaller guys as well, but he's 6'2", 6'1", 6'3", 6'3", 6'4". So there's a lot of big wide receivers that they have, and I'm interested to see how that all works out. So that is the overview of the Wyoming Cowboys. Man, I cannot wait to get started and hurry up and get a championship to Wyoming. I want to put this state on the map. I want to get people to understand what Wyoming football is all about, and I can't wait. So definitely stay tuned as soon as NCAA drops, and you guys are going to see some dope footage, man. I've been seeing a lot of dope stuff coming out of the gameplays, and man, I just can't wait. And we got some really good storylines coming out, so stay tuned. Remember, give it to God. Throw your prayer requests in the comment section below, and I'm going to get with you guys later. Peace.